Alright, hello and welcome back to our playthrough of Escape Velocity Nova. We are continuing with the Vell-os storyline. So, true to my word, in between episodes we have gone and run this little trade route between Tautha and Seoul enough times to give us 20 million credits and change. And so hopefully that'll give us ample funds to trick out this scarab in all the ways we want to. And that includes the Sigma upgrades, which I will actually go and grab right now. So we're going to get the engine tune-up, of course, because why not? The electrical rewiring, also a must-have. And we're also going to land again and try to get the ones that add 5 extra tons of room. Yes, the mass addition indeed. Now, that's just 5 extra tons twice, and there's no downside to those. There is another upgrade which gives you an extra, I think, 100 tons of outfit room, but it does take away from the amount of room you have for actually shipping freight. But this one just has no downside, so why wouldn't you get it is kind of my opinion on it. Now, the multi-jump organ makes it easy for us to get to the Vell-os system to do our mission. If you recall, we were told to go and investigate the Vell-os homeworld in an effort to learn more about these cryptoch. As we see, there are plenty of cryptoch in this system. So the cryptpods, no response, but they certainly seem happy to see us, at least I think so. Alright. You are amazed by the godlike depth of intelligence you sense in the weavings of the crypt mind during your journey. As soon as you enter the physical space occupied by this intelligence, you find yourself constantly under attack by the crypt, and it slowly works its way at your defenses. As soon as you begin piloting down to the surface of Vell-os, the attacks stop, offering you some respite. And as you make your way through the atmosphere of the destroyed world, you can feel Crypt focus's attention down to the surface. When you step out, you see an obsidian-colored nude female figure striding towards your ship. "What are you?" she asks abruptly, and instantly you can sense Crypt's enormous intelligence in the figure before you. "Why did you come here?" Suddenly you are forced to defend your mind against a potentially deadly intrusion as Crypt tries to weave her way inside your head. You instantly merge with the universe and twist the conditions around you to thwart her attempts. But even then, her weaves are almost too intricate to unravel, and you only barely manage to survive. Then, just as suddenly, the attacks stop. "You are interesting," she announces thoughtfully. "I will watch you." With that, her body dissipates into dust, and you are left panting with exertion. So very strange. And it's a little bit strange that it mentioned that we were being attacked by the crypt because, of course, we were not attacked at all. Now let's read the blurb about Vell-os here. This planet is all that is left of what was once an advanced and beautiful civilization. Very few records of the Vell-os before the Vell-os War have survived, but those that have show that this planet was a paradise world, with many beautiful buildings and parks. The Vell-os that remain alive today say that in every city there were artistic and athletic festivals, and that these two pursuits were viewed as the most noble by all Vell-os. Now only radioactive dust and 1 or 2 radiation-resistant microbial life forms remain here. You wish you could spend more time wandering around the ruins of this planet, but your biosuit is already giving you warnings about the radiation. So there we go. This planet was in fact glassed by the Colonial Council during the Vell-os Federation War. Or I should say Colonial Council, because actually it was a distinct government entity prior to the founding of the Federation. But even still, it's still pretty tragic. And that's just how things are, unfortunately. So Cryptoch is going to be watching us, whatever that means. Now, normally, you would have the crypt pods, if they were to attack you, they would attack you with these nanites, which just eat through your ship like crazy. Perhaps I will showcase what they can do, and we'll just attack one on purpose, because it really is pretty impressive. But that'll have to wait for a little bit later, I think. Every spare moment you have on the long journey back to meet Bajena, you spend meditating and training to see if you could better survive another such attack. Never before have you felt such an enormously powerful force try to unravel your mind. The more you study the incident, the more frightened you become. Even the smallest moment of hesitation at any time would have left you dead in an instant. Day after day you practice in an attempt to duplicate the crypt's weaves in order to better understand her attack and be better prepared for any future encounter you may have with her. Towards the end of your journey, you begin to figure out how to produce the same configuration of weaves she did, but you are still a long way from being able to create them with anywhere near the same rapidity. As you fly down through the polluted atmosphere of Pa'ar, you vow to keep meditating on her weaves and keep practicing so as not to have to struggle so desperately the next time you meet her. So interesting. So, what did you learn? Asks Pegena when you exit your craft, and you reply that you learned that you are not yet ready to deal with Crypt. Is it that powerful, he asks, going pale, and you nod grimly. You quickly detail the events of your journey, and pass on all the impressions you got from observing the mind of the Crypt throughout. You finish by describing the events of the attack upon your mind, and by informing Pegena that you need some time before you feel ready to face her again. I understand, he bows, acknowledging the skill required to have even survived. I apologize for exposing you to such a powerful and uncaring being. We'll analyze what information we can garner from your sensors. I can only express my deepest thanks for the efforts you went to in securing it. Please, Ory'Hara, he concludes seriously, do not return until you feel you are ready. So we're definitely not going to return until we've outfitted our ship with the coolest Polaris technology we have access to, that's for sure. So let's go down to a military system. I think this one is going to do just fine. And let's get some of those slick upgrades we couldn't afford in the earlier episodes. And I think that's probably going to clean out our coffers when we do it, though, because they are pretty expensive. So this is the hull upgrade, the spun diamond. That alone is 1.75 million. Maybe I should have gotten even more cash before I stopped our little trading fleet. But I think we're going to be okay. Can't have any more. Good. We're already out of room, though. I do want a cloak organ. Let's grab one of those. We need another manta or 3. Oof, already down to 1 million. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. I think we're going to call that good. So we've definitely beefed up our ship. So keep an eye on the bars over here to the right, and we're going to see how that changes when I press return here. Look at that. So we've pretty much doubled our maximum hull and increased our shields by, oh, I'd say a 1/4. So I'm pretty happy with that. And if we go to our manta bay, we can spit out some more manta. So there we go, a nice fleet of 6 manta. And now we're going to want to just check again to see if there's anything that wasn't available the first time. But it does seem like we've gotten everything we really want. We're going to call that good. Alright, so let's go and see if we can get something from it's either Mohari or Pegena, and it's going to be in regards to dealing with the Vell-os again. So let's first, yeah, as I thought, it was Ory'Hara. As you prepare to disembark from your ship, you cannot help but smile in anticipation when you sense the bubbly presence of Miranda waiting for you. You create a subtle weave to alert her to your imminent arrival, and she greets you when you walk out of the hatch and waves you over. I am glad that our paths have once again crossed, she tells you with a smile, as I wanted to show you something that the Pa'ayat and the Varash have been working on recently. You are of course aware that the Vell-os still suffer as slaves under the brutal guidance of the Bureau, she breathes, and we have long waited to find a way of freeing them from their onerous burden. Well, recently, a young Varash came up with a fairly reasonable theory as to how we might actually go about it. Interested? Yeah, of course we are. I thought you might want to come along, she continues with one of her trademark smiles. The other reason why I'm glad you came along is that I need a lift to see it myself. They are conducting the experiment on the Veracy station in the Varaki system. So, that's where we need to get to. I have been assured by a number of various Varash and Pa'ayat involved in the project, Miranda continues brightly, that they feel as if they are on the verge of a major breakthrough soon, so we might want to hurry. You grin at her not-so-subtle hint, and you invite her to lead the way back onto your beloved Hari to begin the journey. And it's not really that far of a journey, as you might recall, Varaki is only the next system over. And so indeed, we don't even need to use our beloved multi-jump organ. And it's this oh-so-familiar station at this point. During the journey, Miranda asks you a number of questions regarding your abilities and your confrontation with the Crypt. You end up training with her and guiding her to a greater understanding of her own arts and abilities. When you land, you're greeted by a green-robed woman who Miranda introduces as Vell-os. She indicates that you should all follow her, and she leads you to an observation booth looking down into a laboratory. Beneath you, you see a man lying down with a complex device fitted to the base of his skull, surrounded by 10 sweating Polarans of various classes. Observing closer, you sense that the surrounding people are all very strong telepaths, and they are trying to somehow lift some kind of weight away from the mind of the prone patient. Suddenly you understand that the Polaris are trying to find a way of temporarily taking the strain away from the prone man, who is enslaved by the device attached to his skull. You sense they are trying to twist the weaves of the device against it somehow, without much success. Acting on a whim, you merge with the universe around you and casually divert its weaves towards yourself. Suddenly you feel pressed against the floor by the flows of the enslavement device, and only by continually manipulating the conditions around you are you capable of keeping at bay the terrible compulsion. At the edge of your concentration, you hear a gasp, and you quickly emerge from your union with the universe, and the pressure on your mind falls away as your weaves crumble. You look up to see all the Polaris looking at you in awe. "And he shall show us the way onwards," says Vell-os, as if quoting from somewhere, and every person in the room bows in your direction. Embarrassed, you quickly tell them how you did it, and how they might emulate it using a series of simple weaves before telling Miranda that you are tired from the long journey, and heading back to the privacy of your ship. So very interesting, we are definitely flexing on the Vell-os. Let's see if the Vell-os have anything new and interesting for us here. Again, no, I think we've gotten all the cool stuff that we're going to get for now. But that's okay. So, I guess, we have kind of mistakenly invented the way to free the Vell-os from their enslavement. And we become more and more apart from the larger Polaris society. Which on the one hand, you know, sad. On the other hand, probably kind of worth it to free an entire race from enslavement. So, I don't know. Alright, I think we should head back to probably Ory'Hara, or alternatively we can head up to the scientist world, and I'm sure we can find the next link in the chain at one of those two destinations. But, yeah. Big steps. The power creep is real. Alright, so let's head back up to Polaris then. And thanks to our multi-jump organ, it's only going to take one jump. I love it so much. Alright, so let's try this instead. Are we now strong enough to fight the crypt? That's the real question. Maybe. As you sit in the bar, you sense the familiar presence of Miranda approaching. Vell-os and her team have duplicated your success, she tells you with a smile. Now we can move our operation up a notch. You can feel Miranda's mind working deviously, and you raise an eyebrow in curiosity. Now that you are with us, she tells you, we must prepare for the reintegration of humanity. We cannot stick to our isolationist policy any longer. We must begin preparing the way. You see, now that we can free one Vell-os, she continues explaining, we can aid the rebels in their efforts to destroy the Bureau. You see, without the enslaved Vell-os, the Bureau will no longer be able to put up show trials, where supposedly free Vell-os are meant to read the minds of the accused and make judgments on them. In reality, they are told precisely what their judgments are going to be ahead of time by their Bureau masters. The end result will be the discrediting of the Bureau, and hopefully its destruction, and so a more reasonable Federation government. Interested in helping out? Of course we are. I knew I could count on you. Miranda smiles at you in thanks before getting down to business. We've already told the rebels to prepare for the Federation's sudden weakness, and we believe that they are planning to strike against the Bureau headquarters on New England. But first, we must remove the enslavement device from at least one Vell-os. Once we've done that, the freed Vell-os will be able to take the strain for at least one other, and in no time the entire race will be freed. I don't know, sounds kind of like a pyramid scheme to me. But it won't be easy, Miranda warns. You see, the Vell-os have been ordered to stop anyone from moving the devices, so you can expect them to fight you with everything they have. Simply put, she summarizes quietly, whilst handing you a small hypodermic syringe. We want you to go bring back Lyral from his current home on Earth in the Sol system, and take him to Vell-os in the Veraki system. The sedative in that syringe should be strong enough to keep even a Vell-os unconscious for several weeks. That doesn't sound healthy. I'm pretty sure being unconscious is like super bad for you. I mean, if I've learned one thing from watching Archer, that and that tinnitus is no joke. But, okay, we'll give that a try. Oops. It's sometimes hard to see where those hypergate routes actually are in Polaris space. But, I'm willing to bet that the Bureau and even Lyral himself aren't going to be too enthused about letting us just snatch him up. But hey, we're piloting a Polaris Scarab, and we are absolutely terrifying. So let's go show them what exactly that means. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. And even still, I'm getting a little bit reckless here. But, I think we'll hold our own. So the real trick is, are we going to have to deal with the Vell-os I saw in this system? Because they actually can pack a pretty hefty punch. But I don't immediately see them. Maybe they either got destroyed already or they've wandered off. I have to admit, that was fun. Oh no, they're just hanging out, so maybe they're gonna allow us to do this. Yeah, they're Vell-os and not Federation, so I think they're gonna allow us to land on Sol and finally free them from the Bureau's telepathic enslavement. But that was a fun little firefight. Did we lose any mantas? No, because we are amazing. Lyral greets you when you land. You know that I must resist as strongly as I can, he tells you almost formally. You nod and the two of you begin. In the following minutes, both of you weave ever more complex flows, and while you have the advantage of being able to merge with the universe, Lyral's telepathic attacks force you to use your abilities to defend your mind from his telepathic attacks, rather than for attacking him. Finally, in an effort to protect your mind, you merge completely with the spirit of the universe, losing all sense of self. In that moment, your intellect fastens to touch every point in the universe at one time, and for a second, you know everything about the universe. In your last moments of union, before your mind shudders back from the inconceivable, you use your power to create a weave that smashes through Lyral's defenses. Ory'Hara, he mutters as he falls unconscious. You quickly drag him onto your ship, away from the many bystanders that had stopped to watch the fight. So I don't think we even used the sedative, I think we just kind of weaved him into oblivion. But anyway, we have taken our prisoner fair and square, and now we are going to go free him from his enslavement. So really he should be happy. But we'll see how that goes. Oh, I like the nebula down here. It's very pretty. The Holpa Nebula. But poor Lyral. I mean, being a Vell-os is really quite the miserable experience. And that's kind of what the player experiences when they do the Vell-os campaign. It's a pretty depressing campaign to be used as sort of the de facto tutorial campaign. But what can you do? That's probably a good warning for the people before they go and do things like the Federation and Rebellion campaigns. As soon as you land, your passenger is wheeled out into one of the many medical facilities on the station. Miranda watches the other Polaris wheel him away before coming over and placing a hand on your shoulder. You couldn't have known, she informs you quietly, but Lyral, the Vell-os you fought, was known throughout the galaxy as perhaps the greatest master of the Vell-os arts in a millennia. Perhaps the greatest ever. To have defeated one such as him proves that you are Ory'Hara. No one else could have achieved it. You look into her kind blue eyes, your mind still reeling from being one with the universe. You can feel the soft razor edge of insanity dwelling not far away, even as you go over the events in your mind. You'll be happy to know, Miranda continues happily, ignorant of your distress, that the Bureau is in disarray after the rebel attack on their headquarters and all the subsequent drama. You see, Miranda explains jubilantly, the rebels were able to capture the leader of the Bureau, a woman who went by the name of Commander Crane, and now that we have Lyral, we can free him, and therefore the rest of the Vell-os, which means that when this Crane woman is put on trial, she will be really put on trial before an unbiased Vell-os judge. Imagine how damaging the verdict will be. You cannot help but smile at Miranda's enthusiasm, knowing that your efforts will be instrumental in bringing to power a more reasonable Federation government. You realize that the satisfaction you feel right now more than makes up for the loneliness of your existence. Anyway, Miranda concludes happily, we are over the moon with the way things have gone, and Bistandrea has given me permission to open the Polaris treasury to pay you a sizable donation for your efforts. If you want, you can even buy our latest ship, the Raven, the most powerful vessel ever created. And true to form, some people do believe that the Raven is the most powerful vessel in the game. I do not like the Raven. I think that the Raven is slow and cumbersome and bad, but that's just me. Ooh. The Polaris multi-torpedo. Let's read the blurb for this one. The Polaris multi-torpedo takes non-corporeal engineering to the extreme. The charge and spin of the huge Polaris virtual structure is set by the launcher at firing time, much like the simpler Polaris torpedoes. However, in the case of the multi-torpedo, the chaos mathematics of the field interaction allows the the neural net of the Polaris vessels to create virtual substructures that get activated shortly after launch, creating 5 simple torpedoes all capable of attacking different targets. That's a lot of quasi pseudoscience, weird sci-fi math, but it's good. The point is, it's good. We also don't have the torpedo tubes to fire them, so I guess we'll just sell them again. But what can you do? How much is it? 30 tons. It's not enough to just sell one of those. I guess we'll hold off on that for now, unfortunately. Alright, so we should have, 40 Polaris torpedoes, and so that is enough to blow up another Federation fleet if we have need to do so. But I think we are getting close to... we're getting close to half an hour, but we're going to do, I think, one more mission, then we'll call it good. Upon landing, you sense the bubbly Miranda nearby, and as you prepare to disembark, you can feel an underlying sense of urgency as she waits for you. When you finally exit your ship, you casually emerge with the universe and bring into existence a weave which turns her head towards you. After a moment of odd shock, she makes her way over. You've become very difficult to track down, she begins reverently. We only went one system away. I used to be able to sense your presence directly, even from many systems away, but as your skills have increased, it has become almost impossible to sense you directly at all, even from across the room. Instead, I have to track you by sensing the reaction of others to recognizing your presence, which is far more difficult. You wince when you're reminded of how the Polaris have come to think of you, but you keep your face and mind blank. Regardless, she says more seriously, the reason I'm here is because I have urgent information that needs to get into the right hands. Can I count on you? Of course you can, Miranda. Thank you, Ory'Hara, she breathes sincerely. It is something of an emergency. You see, since Dr. Pentecost was elected the new Federation president, he has generously been sharing intelligence with us. Basically, we have learned that just before they were discredited, the Bureau had managed to forge an alliance with the Moash House. We have reason to believe that they had fled to the Moash space with a sizable fleet of Federation vessels in an effort to regain a toehold in the universe. It is urgent that you pass on all this to the Heron House, she explains quietly, as we think they may be in imminent danger of being attacked by a combined fleet of Moash and Bureau forces. Once you have done that, you are going to have to decide on your own what action you should take from there, as we don't know enough to help you. That's ominous, don't you think? Let's take a look at the Raven, too. This ship is a behemoth, sliding through the ether with an ease that belies its enormous bulk. The Polaris Raven is a vision of glory and terror. It dwarfs the massive Scarab in both size and firepower. It is, simply put, the most powerful weapon humanity has ever constructed. The Raven utilizes twin etheric induction engines for sublight travel. These devices simply suck the fabric of space-time in the front and squirt it out the back. If one of these engines should ever stop suddenly, the gravation effects would cause the momentary formation of a black hole. Alright, and here is a very cool image of it, flying in front of what looks like a very large sun. So it has 2 capacitor pulse lasers, 8 mantas, 2 Polaris multi-torpedo tubes, and 40 ammo. Also can make 15 jumps. It's also slow as molasses, and therefore useless. Anyway, so we're going to head down to Heron and see what the plan is as far as dealing with the Moash. The Moash always have their fingers in all the wrong pies. See, we're not really liked on Aurora. That's because the Moash are still the first family in this timeline. But maybe that will change soon, at least if we have anything to say about it. We'll probably see what the blurb is on Heron, and then we'll call it an episode and save the stunning finale for later. Alright, turn it down to 1x speed. Tell my guys to go attack the duelists, and then blow up everything in sight. With this wonderful laser. I know, we're taking a little bit too much unnecessary damage there. But we'll tell this cruiser what we think of it with these sweet Polaris torpedoes. I know, it's not great to watch me just fire Polaris torpedoes from across the map, but hey, that's kind of how you fight as a Polaris, fortunately. So there we go. Now it's a little bit interesting those were marked as duelists, because you would think I wouldn't have to fight duels to land on Heron after last time. I did defeat their Thurikir, Tekarak, the Bloody Hammer. You find yourself getting mildly irritated when you sense a number of young Auroran warriors eagerly awaiting your arrival, so they can test themselves against you. As soon as you open the hatch, you slip into the universe and create weaves so dense that they are powerful enough to throw grown men around like leaves. As you hold all 10 young warriors motionless in midair, you tell them in no uncertain terms that you are in no mood to deal with their silliness today. Only when you are certain they understand you do you relent and lower them back down to the ground. You ask one of the now slightly youngsters where you have to go to talk with the elders of their house, and he points without hesitation to a stairwell off to the side of the docking facility going up. You nod in thanks and begin making your way to them. After a long climb, the stairs open into a large room in which a number of elderly-looking warriors are seated around a large table talking in an orderly fashion. As you stride over, they catch sight of you and fall silent, watching you slightly suspiciously. "Why have you disturbed us, Ory'Hara?" asks Tekarak from his seat at the foot of the table. "I wouldn't think that you would barge in here so unceremoniously without reason." You nod and quickly outline the intelligence that Miranda passed on, and her assessment that the Heron House is a likely first target for the combined Moash and Bureau fleets. When you finish, the elders look at each other, doubtful of your story. "I will vouch for Ory'Hara," states Tekarak quietly. "He is a warrior of the purest order. His words are as law." With that, the elders look at you with renewed respect, and you realize that Tekarak's word obviously means a great deal to them. "Thank you for giving us this information, Ory'Hara," Tekarak again pipes up. "The elders will now consider it and prepare a plan of action. I'll meet you in the bar in 2 hours to let you know what has been decided." Alright, and I think that's what we're going to call it an episode, so thanks for joining me. I've been really happy to see the kind of reception that these videos are getting on the channel these days, and it's just amazing that people would want to come and watch this 18-year-old game. I certainly enjoy playing it, so it's great that people still enjoy watching it. But we're getting close to the end of the Polaris campaign now. Afterwards, I think we're going to do the Rebel campaign. And hey, if you want to go and get caught up on the other storylines, they're up on the channel right now. So are the side missions. And if you like something particular in this episode, leave a comment down below. And as always, until next time, I hope you have a good one.